Next, we have recognition of guests. We have Victoria Howerton to talk about the city charter and the mayor's retirement.
Thanks for having me. I have two separate issues.
Please state your name and address, please.
I will. My name is Victoria Howerton. I live at 214 West Maple.
Okay, thank you.
Nice to meet
Ma'am,
you
you'll
all.
be recognized for 5 minutes on each topic, and I'll give you a sign when there's 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. I wore a mask today because, wait, 3 of you voted to force me to do so. And you didn't wrestle me to the ground and hold it to my face, but you might as well have. And I really resent it. So the first thing I want to talk about is, that goes right back to the power of the vote. You have the power of your vote. The citizens of West Plains voted you in. And once we vote you in, you have more power than you probably should have, as I've learned, which I really didn't know. So that's why I want to talk about the mayor resigning. The timing of his resignation, it's in the charter that he's going to be replaced by the mayor pro tem. But the mayor pro tem is elected not expecting that the mayor would be replaced. Hopefully, I'm glad you're resigning, and it's been voluntary. But because of the timing of it, it's set in place that the people of West Plains, we're going to have our vote stolen for our next council member. Because when the mayor pro tem replaces you, a council member place opens up, and if it doesn't happen before somebody can file for candidacy, then we are cheated out of our vote. Something I also greatly resent, and something now that I pointed out shouldn't happen. You should do the right thing. You should resign now so there's time for people to file and for the citizens of West Plains to vet the candidate. I, for one, want a candidate who will listen to the people of West Plains and actually follow their wishes. But more than that, I also want a candidate who will revisit the changes that were made in the charter during the pandemic. That's just my opinion. Lots of people in West Plains want different things. We should all have the ability to vote on who rules us. I even hate to say rules us, who we allow to govern us. And by your resigning, as you have, if you follow that, we're not going to be allowed to. There's a second reason that you need to resign, I would say this week. The reason you need to resign this week is because after the election, right now the mayor pro tem is Mr. Topwood, is that right? I think. So if the mayor resigns now, Mr. Topwood automatically gets placed in that position, right? And your position opens up on the city council. If the mayor waits to resign, then what happens is the mayor gets to help elect who replaces him. I don't get a vote. I don't get a vote. That's in the charter. I will not vote who replaces this current mayor. And I resent and is wrong that you would be able to have a vote on who replaces you, but I don't get a vote on who replaces you. So you really need to resign for those 2 reasons. So that's what I have to present on the mayor's resignation. So we're going to start the clock over.
Yep.
Give me a second to regroup. Okay. My second thing that I want to talk about that I didn't know anything about until I got involved in this, I think, which is about November the 4th, that the city actually got on my radar. I want to know why and how the charter amendments were carried out. The city's attorney's failed attempt to stop the petition to recall the mayor hinges on one phrase in the charter and one phrase only. An official may be recalled only for reasons of misconduct in office, incompetence, or failure to perform duties prescribed by law. This language was not in the West Plains Charter before June 2nd, 2020. This language is not in the model charter that West Plains used for its boilerplate language, and this language is not in the Nixon Charter that went through the same process as West Plains. Before June the 2nd, West Plains citizens could ask for a sort of no-fault divorce from its elected officials, no longer. And I want to know why. I want to know why major changes to our charter were pushed through in the middle of the pandemic of 2020. I want to know why a charter committee was pulled together by the mayor and council members 4 years ahead of schedule. I want to know why changes were suggested to our brand new charter with zero transparency and zero discussion, at least public. And I want to know which changes were suggested to the charter committee by the city, including the mayor, the council members, the city administrator, and the city attorney. According to the news releases put out by the city of West Plains, including some that were posted on Facebook, the suggested amendments to the charter were nothing to raise eyebrows about. But this is a lie. I don't want to sugarcoat this, because lying to the electorate it's serious business, is what it is. Here's the language 520 brave voters, braving the pandemic, voted on June 2nd, 520. Shall the home rule charter of the city of West Plains, Missouri be amended? That was it. It is an all or nothing question. Voters were asked to approve multiple changes to their charter, and zero details of these changes were provided on the ballot for the unprepared voter. And by unprepared, I include those voters who read every word released by their city government on this topic. Did anyone on this board, did you vote yes and not understand everything that you were voting for? I hope so, because you voted to protect yourselves from the wrath of voters. You voted to get rid of the no-fault political divorce that has been available to West Plains voters for the last 6 years. The last charter committee found perfectly acceptable. The original charter committees were elected by West Plains voters. The pandemic committee, appointed directly by the mayor, decided West Plains voters shouldn't have that perk, even though that was one of the driving arguments to adopt a charter government. And if you voted on the pandemic amendments, do you know you voted for language changes that were designed to restrict citizen-driven efforts to the April election? But that failed in its effort, thanks to the original charter that's very thorough. Did you know voting yes meant that for all intents and purposes, citizen-driven petitions can no longer be left in city stores for citizens to sign? That means it's infinitely harder to get signatures. It's infinitely harder to recall any of you. Did you know voting yes meant that there's an increased opportunity for the city to intimidate petition circulators and their families? That includes anyone who has dealings with the city on any level, business owners, private citizens, city employees, and their families, because including the pandemic bundle, is a pandemic bundle, is what I'm calling it, was a stipulation that any petition circulator has to register with the city before he or she gathers a signature. That is a recipe for intimidation. How many minutes do I have left?
1 minute, 21 seconds.
So I'm going to skip over the business owner. I won't give the details, but I have a paper for you that I want you to sign that promises you will, to the best of your ability, promise that no one will be intimidated or singled out or get a bad employee review because of being a circulator. And I want to continue. The last part of your packet, which I'm going to give you, is a tale of two charter amendment ordinances. One is from Nixa, a city comparable to ours, and a model city that anyone championing charters would trot out as a good example. The other ordinance is ours. Nixon's ordinance spells out each change completely, and that exact wording was placed on the June ballot. Nixon voters accepted or rejected each change separately. No all or nothing for them, and not a single amendment limited citizen power in any way, shape, or form. The West Plains Amendment Ordinance was obfuscation writ large. First, it's unclear whether the changes were even completed before you guys voted on it. The ordinance says the committee has communicated or will communicate such amendments to the council. The amendments suggested by the committee are nowhere to be found in the ordinance that you passed, although the ordinance promises that the wording of the charter changes will be substantially in the same form. You talk about wiggle room. I'd like to know whether the phrase, okay, I'm done. Let me give you your.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just ask one question, will actually.
You may.
Of Ms. Snodgrass. About when do we have to submit ballot issues for the April ballot?
So, January 19th, that's the deadline. And I have a week to certify.
By about the end of June.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mike.
I got more. Thank you for letting me talk. I appreciate it.
Okay, Mike.
Reading of the bills, we have Bill 46